Hi, and welcome to Dirtbike's off-road video series. Today we've got the Honda CRF450RX. This bike is very similar to the 450R motocross bike, but with a number of changes specifically designed for off-road riding. First of all, it has softer suspension. The RX has a 5.0 spring in the rear, different valving. The MX bike, on the other hand, has a 5.4. In front, RX has 0.48 springs as opposed to 0.5, so quite a bit softer at both ends. The mapping on the RX has 3 different levels that can be selected through the use of a handlebar switch. None of them are the same as those of the MX bike, although number 3 is the most aggressive and closely mimics number 1 on the CRF450R. The RX also has 3 levels of traction control, all of which are different from those of the motocross bike. Like the MX bike, it also has 3 tiers of launch control. The fuel capacity of the off-road bike is 2.1 gallons in a plastic fuel tank. The MX bike has 1.7 in a titanium tank. As far as wheels and tires, the RX has an 18-inch rear wheel and back, and both ends have Dunlop AT81 tires, whereas the motocross bike has MX33s. You also get new handguards, an O-ring chain, lower final gearing, 50 versus a 49, and a gearbox that is exactly the same on both models. You don't get a spark arrestor, a quiet muffler, or a California green sticker certification. We weighed the bike on our scale. It's 238 pounds without fuel. That makes it 5 pounds heavier than the R on the same scale. As you probably know, the CRF450R motocross bike was completely new for 2021. The biggest news in the motor department is the new head with the center port exhaust. This leads to a single exhaust system, no more twice pipes. The intake was rethought with more volume between the filter and the throttle body, along with re-angled injectors. The motor also gets a new clutch with larger surface area and hydraulic actuation. There's a Nissan master cylinder on the handlebar connected to a Nissan slave cylinder on the left side of the case. The frame was redesigned with most of the dimensions altered just slightly. The head angle is a little bit more relaxed, the swing arm and wheelbase are shorter, although the distance between the swing arm pivot and the front axle is actually greater. All of the bodywork is changed and the bike is narrower, especially in the rear where there used to be 2 pipes. Now, the reception of the motocross version was less than what Honda had hoped, primarily because the COVID-19 pandemic cut short Honda's pre-production testing time. Now that the company testing department has had time to catch up, new mapping is available for both the CRF450R and the RX. If you've already purchased either bike, your dealer can reflash it with the latest mapping, which is what our test bike had. Trail riders should know up front that the RX is a lot of motorcycle. It makes a ton of horsepower and it isn't especially gentle. If you take it to tight technical trails and ride at low RPM, the motor is lurchy and will occasionally flame out. If you give it a little wide open space, the RX can really stretch its legs. It's an absolute blast. Its primary turf is GP tracks, motocross style off-road courses, open desert, occasional 2-track. None of that should come as any surprise to anyone. This is how the RX has been since its introduction. The difference is that it's more manageable than before. Where the power delivery used to be intimidatingly steep right in the middle, it's all much more spread out now. It still makes as much power as ever on top, maybe even more. But getting there isn't quite as difficult or intimidating. The motocross version quickly got a reputation for having an intermittent hiccup That's gone with the new mapping. Of the 3 maps that you can select through the handlebar switch, map 3 is the most aggressive and the most fun in the open. It also has 3 levels of traction control. Traction control is not bad for rocks and gravel. For sandy hill climbs, on the other hand, it's a little overbearing, as if you're dragging the rear brake. Most riders will probably prefer to manage their own traction control with the throttle and the clutch. By the way, we love the new clutch. This is a huge improvement. The previous generation clutch was a big handicap for Honda riders and has been since 2009. It had a hard pull, an inconsistent feel, and would wear out quickly. It's new game now. The hydraulic clutch is one of the lightest pulls in the 450 class, and it never fades, no matter how badly it's abused. Another aspect of the motocross bike that took a lot of fire is the rear suspension. It was a little soft, giving the bike an unbalanced feel. The RX has even softer suspension than the R, but for off-road, that's perfectly appropriate. The stock setup is a decent compromise for fast riding and big desert whoops. If you go to the track, you'll probably want stiffer springs at both ends. Once you get it all balanced, the Honda handles incredibly well. It's a super responsive bike that feels even lighter than it is. That's how Hondas have been for a long time. And if you like that feel, you'll love this bike. The difference now is that the bike is a little calmer and a little more predictable. So even riders who might not have been big Honda fans in the past could be on board this year. The more we ride the bike, the more we like it. For more on the 2021 Honda CRF450RX, pick up the May 2021 print edition of Dirtbike magazine. And for more 2021 videos, click on the screen now. You can always go to dirtbikemagazine.com for all the latest off-road and motocross news, tests, and reports.